I think it's ever when they get a fresh start. There's real excitement, there's belief, and I think they look at some of the squad, and especially off the back of last night's result, and they think, we could do something. But that is increasingly being tempered by expectation. And like you say, Nico, they've seen this job break almost any manager you can name. They've had the hot young new coach in Erik ten Hag. They've had the journeyman, they've had the serial winners, and it hasn't broken right for any of them.
James, Manchester United, Ruben Amorim, what is the latest?
Yeah, it's all agreed now. My understanding is we will get an announcement, perhaps not today, but probably within the next 24 hours, to ensure that Ruud van Nistelrooy is able to address his press conference knowing that Ruben Amorim will be the next manager, but he will not take over until after the international break. I believe Amorim's final game is away to Braga. He has one great opportunity to ingratiate himself with Man United fans in the Champions League against Manchester City. But Ruben Amorim has agreed, Sporting have agreed, and all that's waiting now is sort of final confirmation. Amorim will serve out part of his notice period, not all of it, and Manchester United, in addition to the 10 million euros they're paying, will pay 1 million euros to get Amorim out of his contract a few days, maybe a week early, so that he can take over in the international break. And his first game will be away to Ipswich Town on November the 23rd.
Maybe it's been said, but is there any idea as to what promises or anything that Amorim had asked for, in particular transfer market coming, players that he may need to play his system at Manchester United? Anything of that coming about yet?
No word so far. And I mean, really, at the moment, they're still sort of going through the coaching staff in particular. My understanding, and this hasn't been ironed out as far as I'm aware, but my understanding is Amorim will bring over 5 members of staff. That's what we're hearing from sources in Portugal. Still a bit up in the air whether Ruud van Nistelrooy will stay or go. But look, the transfer side of it, I think he understands now that Amorim is coming into a structure where recruitment won't be as much the manager's purview as it's been with past coaches and even with Erik ten Hag. They've implemented this structure with the likes of Jason Wilcox, Dan Ashworth, so they will be the ones making the decisions with Amorim's input. So I wouldn't necessarily expect a raft of sporting players. I'm not even sure that Man United have the money to do huge, big deals after the 200 million they spent in the summer.
So is he coming in as a manager or a head coach then?
I would expect head coach. That's also not something I'm aware of the final agreement on. But I think one of the things that Manchester United have been really conscious of is the need to break the sort of aura of manager. I think they have a sort of sense of like great man of history vibes post Alex Ferguson, the idea that one person can fix it. And they know that Ruben Amorim is vital for setting the culture, for defining how Manchester United play football up and down, in the age groups as well. But I would expect him to at least initially be employed as a head coach. But as far as I'm aware, that hasn't actually been confirmed, and I haven't seen that reported elsewhere.
James, so given this information that you're giving us, it feels like Manchester United's not going to write that blank check for Amorim to kind of do as he wishes from the get-go, at least, right? Because essentially he's inheriting not only a Ten Hag squad from this transfer window, he's had several transfer windows to build this team that got him fired.
Yeah, the Sporting head coach is effectively taking the Ajax team with a Manchester United badge on it. It seems to be what it's like for me. And look, Manchester United really sort of said we're a bit tight on money in the summer, and then spent quite a lot of it. They recouped 100 million of the 200 million they spent. But there are quite a few younger players there, the likes of Xerxes. You could make a case for De Ligt, even Ugarte, and especially Lenny Yoro. Add them to homegrown players like Kobe Mainu and Alejandro Garnacho. And I think the first task for Amorim will be building something with them and establishing what he's got in that team. And then hopefully they will think by the summer, which spots do we need to fit within the first team? Where do we need to get better and stronger and higher quality? But I would be surprised if, for instance, come January, Manchester United said, do you want Victor Gyökeres? We'll go and get him for you. I just think that Manchester United, and the word out of Manchester United is they don't want to run themselves that way anymore. Now, the word out of Manchester United 4 months ago was they wanted to see how Erik ten Hag fitted into this system. So never underestimate Manchester United's capacity to panic as an institution. But look, I think this is one where they want to take their time. And I know you guys were speaking really interestingly about the value that someone like Amorim would have brought with a pre-season. But maybe the view is this is almost like an elongated pre-season, a learning exercise. United know they're probably not going to qualify for the Champions League this season. So let's see what we've got and then go again in the summer and really start the third, fourth rebuild in the last however many years.
Which brings me right to my question, which is what is a realistic expectation that Manchester United board, especially Ineos, are putting on Amorim for this season?
Progress, really. They have access to all the data. They know what it's said about Manchester United in the past 18 months, maybe a little bit more since the start of last season, that Manchester United are pretty much a league average team, and they need to get better. The talent is there, but also the talent isn't there for a run at the title. Omar Barada, the CEO, has spoken about 2028, Project 2028. They want to win the league title in the 150th anniversary of their founding. I think they would know that even that is a deeply ambitious goal, even for a club like Manchester United. So, a 4-3 year window to push and establish themselves as title contenders. If Amorim can compete in the Cup, so he may well get a chance in the League Cup and the FA Cup and make a deep run into the Europa League, get into the Champions League somehow, those would all be positives. But it's pretty clear Manchester United know this is a season where there's work to do and progress to be made.
James, if I was a Manchester United fan before Erik ten Hag got hired, and you told me that Erik ten Hag was getting hired, I would have.
Real quick, before you finish, James, what era would a Manchester United fan look like this with this era?
It's very early 80s. I don't know if any of you guys have been watching Rivals, but Nico does look like he's come straight off the set of one of those 80s Jilly Cooper novels.
Thank you. I'll take that.
Sorry to interrupt your question.
So if I was that fan that grew up in the 80s and I've watched a lot of football and someone told me, hey, you're hiring Erik ten Hag, I would have been happy given his track record. Similarly now, but we saw how Erik ten Hag played out. I think he had Erik ten Hag maybe even better credentials than Amorim going into this job. So what's the fan base? What's their temperature at the moment?
I think it's ever when they get a fresh start. There's real excitement, there's belief, and I think they look at some of the squad, and especially off the back of last night's result, and they think, we could do something. But that is increasingly being tempered by expectation. And like you say, Nico, they've seen this job break almost any manager you can name. They've had the hot young new coach in Erik ten Hag. They've had the journeyman. They've had the serial winners, and it hasn't broken right for any of them. So I think Ruben Amorim will really please the fan base. There's lots of talk as well about whether he was going to be an option for Manchester City. He was clearly going to be in consideration if Pep Guardiola left, because they hired Hugo Viana. So the fact that they're getting someone that probably is at a higher level than they are as a club. He is a coach that we think would have taken Sporting to a Portuguese title maybe, and to the knockout stages of the Champions League. It's something to get excited about. But I think, speaking to my friends that are Manchester United fans, and I live in South London, so there's loads of them, speaking to them, I think they know that they can't expect miracles anymore. It's going to be a long progress, and they just have to hope it is steady progress, not peaks and troughs like it was under Erik ten Hag.
We're going to stay on the pulse of this Manchester United news, because it feels like it will be imminent that Ruben Amorim will get hired as Manchester United per reports.